Dianne Riis, welcome to the Travel Coach.
Hi, Sonia. It's so good to see you.
So good to have you here. I was looking forward to this chat for, since we talk about it. So now here we are.
Here we are.
So if you want to introduce yourselves to make sure, everybody knows who you are, what you do.
Sure. My name is Dianne Riis. I am a metaphysical minister and a witch. That's kind of in my personal and private and coaching life, but I'm an author and a writer's coach. I help people to kind of find their mojo and publish if they want, otherwise using writing to kind of explore their deepest depths. So that's my favorite thing. I just want to say real quick that Sonia plays Bewitched at the beginning of this particular episode. And I was like, oh my God, is she playing this Bewitched? And she goes, yeah, kind of just for me. So thank you so much.
Yes, very personalized, just for this conversation. Okay, Dianne. So you know that the Travel Coach podcast is all about stories of transformation. So I would like if you can share with us, what does transformation mean to you? In a couple of words.
It's awakening. And I don't believe that awakening is a one-time all. It's tiny illuminations. And so every transformation kind of turns on another light bulb. So that's transformation for me. Tiny illuminations along the way.
Beautiful. I love that. So we are here to talk about travel, about transformational travel. And I know you had lots of experience about that. So tell us, what would you say is the most transformational trip you ever had?
The most transformational trip was probably, I've told you before that I've taken tons of retreats, and I'm one of those people that just needs to get away a lot. And this is pre-COVID, right? So it really was very strange not to be able to go anywhere. But probably the first one was, I'd never been to a spa, right? So I'm a pretty young woman, relatively young woman. And I get really scared, but I want to go to a spa so bad. It's all I've ever thought about, right? But the thought of getting naked and being massaged, I'd never had that feeling. Going into a steam room, I didn't know. And yet, as I did it, it was like this stripping away of all of those protective shells. And you see that here's just all these other women just doing this very comfortably, just walking around being themselves, letting themselves be touched and pampered and cared for, letting themselves not be with 100 other people, their family members, their boyfriends, their husbands, their children, but instead just, choosing the meals that they wanted to eat, going to the meals when they felt like it, reading and falling asleep at a nap if they wanted. It was so freeing. I came back completely transformed by that. And I quickly signed up for Spa Finders, which I don't know if even still exists. And I went on spa vacations for years. That was the only place I ever went, was to various spas around the world. Just to bliss out alone like that, it was so fantastic. So yeah, that was the most transformational early trip for me to a health spa.
Amazing you said that, right? Because we are not used to practice self-care, self-love. Is something that sometimes feels like alien to us, right? It's not something that other people should do, but maybe we don't need, we don't deserve, we are not used to.
Yeah.
So what would you say was your life situation before this trip?
I was, since I was very young, a minister in a traditional Christian church where I was marrying people, burying people, going to the hospital at people's bedsides when they died. And it was super stressful all the time from I was very young. No one ever teaches you how to manage that level of like human life right to your face day after day after day after day, which is what got me into the habit of leaving frequently every 8 weeks or so for some sort of a retreat. It was my escape. I mean, I think it was survival. I think that's what taught me perspective, step away. And can I tell you a really quick story about this?
Sure, please,
Retreat corresponded with a situation. I was out on the east end of Long Island in Montauk at Gurney's Inn, which is one of the most expensive spas I've ever been to. And I've been there numerous times. Like I budget and I can only go in March, right? When no one else is there. But I was at this retreat for myself, and all of a sudden I just sat up and I was like, I have to go into the city, into Manhattan, because this one gentleman that I knew who was there wasn't doing well, and I just had a hunch I had to go. I drove from Montauk into Manhattan, and I got there within 5 minutes of him dying. And it was as if I had to be there. But I feel like because I was on retreat, I was tuned in enough, having been with the ocean and been alone, to hear an internal message that just said, there's something you have to go do. And I mean, there was no doubt I was going to get up and pack and leave. I can't even explain what that was. And I had the privilege of being there at his passing. And even that was a gift. It was sort of exactly what I was trying to get away from, and then exactly what I was preparing in some spiritual way to go right back into, if that makes any sense.
My God, you got me goosebumps. So we have so much noise around us that we are not able to hear our own intuition. So you were there away from all this noise and with your connection with you know, this intuition, and you heard that saying, we need to go back. Oh my God, that's amazing. So you went to this spa and you had, so if there is somebody who's listening now and also has, you know, this resistance maybe to go to a spa or to have this wellness, you know, experience, what would you tell them? What was maybe, you know, the obstacle that you had and you overcame, and how did you do that?
Well, I would recommend to somebody who's not done it is even just a one night overnight to a place that you know will feel safe for you, that won't be super stressful for you. So some people feel comfortable in the anonymity of the city, for example. Go get a hotel room in a place that feels beautiful and just go. Get out of your comfort zone, your home zone, because I still would want someone to be comfortable even in a new setting of travel, right? Even if it's for the sake of transformation. Or, you know, it's also, how do you break away from the expectation of family? My husband does not love when I go by myself anywhere. You know, it's like, oh, and dude, it's going to be okay. We're all going to be better when I come back. But so how do you speak to the people around you that says, this is what I need, and if you could do this for me, you know? And then to pick something really manageable. So if it's a beach overnight, if it's a city overnight, if it's even just the next town over. And then as you feel more comfortable, to expand the location and the time away. I remember, however, you know, there are times when going on retreat, you're kind of confronted with yourself, which is my whole reason to do it, right? But there are times that my husband would have said to me something like, you seem like you get so depressed when you go on these things. Why do you do it? And, you know, he's saying that in the middle of it. And by the end, I've come up out of that. But sometimes you really are confronted by all the things you've been suppressing, not allowing yourself to appreciate or feel. The aloneness. If you're somebody who's bombarding yourself, comforting, consoling, surrounding yourself with people all the time, if there's a calling inside of you to go off and be alone, sometimes it's not the most comfortable thing, right? We're familiar with being, oh, distraction, I have people to care for, things to do, the phone is ringing, so-and-so wants me to have coffee, to step away from all that. And that's the kind of travel you and I are talking about right now. I know that's not the only form of travel, but that's what I'm kind of pointing at. It can be uncomfortable at first, and I just want people to know that doesn't mean it's a bust. It doesn't mean it was a bad idea. It doesn't mean it was a waste of time. You know, wherever we go, there we are, and we meet ourselves. And when you're alone in another place, even more so, right? So yeah, I guess that's a long answer.
No, that you said here different things that I'm thinking, you know, it's worth to talk about, because there is this also this guilt, you know, that we need to get rid of, to feeling, you know, feel the guilt that I'm going on my own to have this treat, and then my family is there. And also the being able to delegate, right? To say, no, I cannot afford to take this trip. I'm too busy. And discovering that you go away and then you will come back and the world didn't end, you know? So somebody else took care about things nearly as well as you do it, you know, to up to your standards. So this is also important when you want to make sure you know, go to this, you have this experience and nothing stops you, especially in your mind.
100%. Yes, absolutely. And you find when you get back that people managed in ways that you would have never thought of, that changes the family going forward. When you know, as my child's gotten older, he's 15, we left him alone with grandma. So grandma's home, but really I said to him, you take care of her. I'd say to her, you take care of, you know, you take care of each other. But they come up with these creative ways of taking care of themselves. So the first time we did this, I was super nervous, although we were only an hour away. I come home and my goodness, you know, they managed in ways I wouldn't have. They made things work in ways that I hadn't thought of, and they were proud of themselves. My son was like, I took care of grandma. You know, that was an added blessing to me getting away. So yeah.
Yeah, that's also discovering that we don't need to be on top of everybody and controlling everything. That is also exhausting.
It is exhausting, yeah.
So it's good. It's a win-win for everybody. Yeah,
yeah.
That's great. So what happened there that was transformational? What did you discover? What did you learn? Who did you meet that you thought, oh my God, that's life changing?
I guess the first ever trip to that on that sort of a retreat that I've ever done, you go in feeling really like you're very alone. You know, you're going to a place where you've left everybody behind. You know, you need to leave it all behind for a little while and all the people that you're used to interacting with. But you know, there's always this, will I connect with anyone feeling? And will it be okay? Will it meet my expectations? Is there something going to be the unknown, right? It's the unknown. And I'll never forget how fast in all of these experiences, how fast you connect with other people who are, whether it's consciously or not, doing the same thing, getting a way to figure out who they were. And since I tended to always go to either health spas or spiritual places, there are other seekers there. There are other journeyers there. And I'll never forget some of the women that I met who were, you know, confronting, whether it was, I remember one place there were women confronting addiction. And I didn't know that's what I was getting into. There was another one where there were people confronting like mortal illnesses, really scary illnesses, and wrestling with that. It was a meditation retreat. And it was about conscious living and dying, but I was there thinking conscious living, and others were there in the process of healing from illness or dying. And it was really powerful stuff. So I think finding those other people is, being open to that is a really powerful piece of it. But also, you know, retreats for me became a practice. And over time, you start to know what to expect from them. You start to look for certain things. So as I mentioned to your assistant, I have practices now around going on these trips so that the eyes are open to what I want to see. I'm setting myself up for positive experiences. So I don't know if you want to talk about any of those or if you have more questions.
You guessed the next question. Tell
So
us more about that.
All right, I have this thing where when I go on a trip, I have a suitcase that is just larger than my laptop. And I'm not kidding. It's like this big. And I start by piling everything that in an ideal world I would bring for, say, a 5-day trip. And then over the course of like a week, I'll decide, nope, this can stay, until I pack everything in this tiny container. I don't ever check luggage. I always put it under the seat, not even overhead because there's a lot of room up there, under the seat in front of me. I want to be able to travel light. And I mean that in a spiritual way. Like I feel like traveling light is a way of life. So there's that. There's also the piece of I always pack one thing that I'm going to use once or wear once or whatever, and then leave behind. If it's something nice, then I leave it for whomever finds it. If it's something that I'm just used up with, I might throw it away. But I always symbolically leave one thing behind as a symbol of what I've outgrown, what I no longer need, what I don't want to be like anymore. I experience travel as I set in my mind, if I'm driving, from the minute I get in my car and click the seatbelt, I am different. I am new. I'm going to experience something new. It works really well in an airport, right? Because the taxi drops you off, the doors swish open, you walk through, the air smells different, there's people milling around you've never met, the door swishes shut behind you. You've now entered this, you know, the twilight zone or whatever's going to happen next. The same when you sit down in the plane, you know, you sit, you've made it all the way through the gauntlet, you've run the gauntlet, you've gone through security and all that stuff's happened. They've taken away your coffee because you can't have liquids. You're sitting, finally you're in your seat, you fasten your seatbelt. It's no longer up to you, man. Like you are now out of control. There's no more need to control. And it reminds you, what do you really have control of anyway? Then you get up in the air, you watch the perspective of land receding beneath you. You get the perspective of, oh, I see my house from here. Everybody, right, looks and tries to see those kinds of landmarks or their own home. And then once you're up, you know, that takeoff feeling, which can be such an adrenaline rush from the first trip I ever took at like 12, you know, getting on that plane and feeling the rush of taking off. What does that symbolize? You know, it's like, oh, anything is possible. The energy, it feels like it's pushing you. It's right there for you. And then you're flying and maybe there's some bumps. And what an education and control then. You can get as tense as you want. Like you could completely freak out, but you're not going to do anything about those crazy bumps. And so how do you manage your own stress reaction when something completely out of your control is happening around you? And isn't that how life is all the time anyway? Like how many times do we have control when crazy stuff happens, except over our own experience? So then I would go on my trip. I always change my schedule. I don't adhere to anything I would do at home. I don't eat the same foods. I don't drink the same drinks. I make a point to just be different. Sometimes I will put on a persona so that I'm a different person when I go. Not that I change my name or any weirdness like that, but I tell myself, let's experiment with being more outgoing. And I just try to be the first person who starts a conversation or whatever it is. Then I leave behind my thing, whatever my thing is, and I start to think about how do I prepare, coming back home. How often do we like immediately rush back into, oh God, no one went food shopping while I was gone and nobody dusted while I was gone, right? We crash, it's like crash landing, splash landing. How do you avoid the splash landing? So it's usually a phone call back home. How is everything? I'll be home in 3 hours. Like, hopefully that's code for dust, vacuum, get some food in the house. So that when I walk in, I'm like ready, and hopefully they're ready, and it's a smoother landing than, oh no, what a mess, or whatever it might be. And then I journal throughout the entire process. And when I'm home, and, if I do have that reaction of, oh, frustrated with myself because I went right back into my old stress situation, journal about that. So how can I bring back in what I learned? Who was I there that I still am somewhere that I could just call up and be? And all those trips, and there's lots of them, have helped make me who I am 100%.
Wow, that was amazing. So just listening to you and how you traveled with this intention to grow, to become a different person, to come back different. Mm-hmm. And it's like, in the moment you said you get out of the taxi or you're entering the airport, it's like you are crossing this threshold and you are not your old self anymore. And now you are in your rite of passage there to become this new self.
Yeah.
And all these rituals that you are using there that are meaningful to you and transformational in itself, in nature. So that's so beautiful when you said that. And when you come back, because this was my next question, right? How you make sure, because it's most of the people problem nowadays when they travel, they feel amazing, all is good, life is great, but then go back again home to their old routines, and sooner or later they just, they feel the stress or, whatever was the feeling that make them travel in the first place. So how do you manage that? So because you journal, you have their actions, you have something to implement different, right? Is what I understand.
Yeah. I remember there was a time period that I used wine to mediate all the stress in my life. And I knew when my travel did not work because I'd be at the last exit on the way home and want to stop and buy wine. And I remember going on a road trip and I was driving and knowing that, was that craving going to come? Was I going to need to pad my return or lubricate my return with alcohol? And I listened to Vipassana meditation the whole way home. And so the entire drive, I was just saying the mantras of the meditation. May I be well, may we all be well. And by the time I got home, I just felt like this is the level that I need to be at in terms of peacefulness within myself, not to have to reach outside for that kind of a thing, which I don't do at all anymore. And, that's kind of the goal. So how are we able to manage without the escape of any kind? So the travel isn't just an escape, but a real intentional process of transformation. I just want to say, when I first heard what you did as the travel coach and coaching on travel and transformation, remember how excited I got? This is like, 8 months ago or something? I was like, oh my God, I totally know what you do. I totally get this. It's totally is amazing. And I have been using it like that for years. And I love that there's a coach out there who's super conscious of it and aware of it and encouraging people to do it, because honestly, it is life-changing. I mean, to the point where it helps you heal from addiction. And I will speak for that. So,
yeah. And thank you, Dianne, for being, so honest and transparent and vulnerable here with us and sharing this personal, story that can help other people as well to understand and see that they are not alone. And it's something very common, right? That people use travel as a way to escape reality, as they can use drugs or alcohol or any other kind of, addiction as well for the same purpose. So thank you for that. That was huge, important.
You're welcome. And I don't mean for it to be heavy. I hear your voice change. It's okay. I think it's okay. Things happen and people, my goal is to say, Dianne's happy. Look, Dianne, she's fine. She got over it. She got past it. She's good. And travel helped. Perspective shift helped. And more than anything, it's that openness to walking through the whoosh, the doors open, and then you're choosing to be different. When we choose that, anything's possible, right?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what your
definitely.
coaching is about.
Definitely, it's with the right mindset as well, right? And having, you know, the willing to do that as well. So what would you say, Dianne, that travel helped you, how travel helped you to become a better person and also a better professional, a better author?
Definitely, because I used it to help monitor and manage my personal growth and my spirituality, my stress levels, my centeredness. I think it gave me a lot of perspective on myself, and I could feel when I'm not calibrated, not aligned. But also, you know, you experience people in all different parts of the world. I've been all over the world, and it just gives you a sense of you're just one piece in this huge puzzle, and there's so much that you can learn. And the minute you think that you've got it all figured out, go someplace else and see how other people are processing it, and you quickly learn there are so many lenses, right? There are so many ways to view things, and I think it widens your perspective. And you and I have talked a little bit about that too, right? So travel just broadens your sense of what's acceptable, what's okay, and how it's okay to be in the world in different ways.
Yeah, yeah. So you think like these last months that we could not travel as much, yeah, and I'm sure you missed it as well, like
I
of, you
did.
know, the travel lovers that also are listening
It's
to that.
so hard, right? It's been
It was
really
very
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to, you know, get in this mood or get this energy that you get when you travel?
Well, I wanted to travel so much that there were times I scheduled things, and at the last minute there would be a surge and I would cancel, and you know, you lose the money on the flight and all this now. But we last summer wound up taking a road trip, and we went to this really funky place up in Newport, Rhode Island, and it really helped me with a funky idea I had. Can I talk about the book and talk
Yeah,
about my
yeah,
little
sure,
practice?
sure,
So
yes.
I wrote a book called Midnight Pages, and it's called A Mystical Workbook for Writers, Insomniacs, and Night Owls. So there are those of us who are awake all night, sleepless people, and I think of that as a night journey. Nobody else is on that trip. If you're awake in the middle of the night, you could feel very alone. You could feel very much like I'm isolated. There's nobody else who gets this. I'm the only one. And so one of the things I created in this book is a travel log. So it's similar to the idea of an armchair tourist, but it's a nighttime tourist. So it's somebody who journeys through the night to learn and explore. And I say, think of the night as a territory, a dark, rich, fertile, unexplored landscape. And you have the opportunity to travel through it every 24 hours. It's a terra incognita because only the rare person takes the journey consciously. Most of us sleep right through it. And so the idea is every night you start as though you're on a 7-day trip. So you do it for a week and you start at a particular location. And do you remember Mad Libs where you fill in the blanks of the different, I don't know if you could see this, but see how there's like questions and then
Yes,
you fill in the
yes.
blanks.
Yeah.
So the idea is this is the country I'm going to be going to. These are the people I hope to meet. This is what I intend to do when I get there. And it's supposed to be an imaginative journey for you to take to see what you can learn if you travel within in the middle of the night. So it's just a fun exercise for, you know, and I've been to Tunisia, so I pictured the souk and I pictured walking down the cobblestones and listening to the call of all the various people who are trying to sell you things and all the children who follow you and ask you for pennies, right? And what would I learn? Who would I meet? Who would be the wise traveler off to the side who would say, come here, I have something to tell you. And in that imaginative journey, you know, writing to me is truly transformative as a writer's coach. And so how do you transform when you can't really go somewhere and then take travel notes, right? Like I would as a teenager, you write in your travel journal, your travel diary. Well, here you can't go anywhere. So how do you do that? And so I created this journey where you go within during the night and explore this imaginative universe, which is as broad as you want it to be. I mean, you could even travel to other planets if you want, because there's really no limits.
Using your imagination, yeah, it's with your imagination. Yeah. You can travel.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So this is part of your book, as it's like in a chapter of the book
it's
that explains
within my
that.
book, right? So there are writing prompts, and there's ways to use your dreams, and there's way to do automatic or channeled writing where you let spirit flow through you. And the travel log is one big section of the book. So for 7 days, you take this imaginative journey and you stay up late or stay up longer than normal, and you just kind of journal out based on the ideas and the questions. So the whole book is kind of prompts and weirdnesses and funky fun things that I researched and came up with. So some of it is science and some of it is myth and some of it comes from archetypes. You know, archetypes are really popular right now. Archetypes and Joseph Campbell and Hero's Journey. It's really fun.
It sounds amazing. So where we can find this book? Is available already? Or?
This book is, you can find it at my website, which is themidnightpages.com. The book is Midnight Pages. So The Midnight Pages. And it's on Amazon as well. Dianne Riis, the author, R-I-I-S. And The Midnight Pages book is a big fat, like you could see this big fat workbook, or it's also an ebook as well. But you don't get all the beautiful pages illustrated to draw in and write.
It's better in paper. I also
like it's so nice in paper. Yeah.
That's amazing, Dianne. Thank you for that. So, you know, if there is people who cannot travel for some reason, maybe there is still restrictions, you know, somewhere that they cannot travel, they can use the imagination and maybe get some of the benefits as well, connecting with the creativity and getting this, relief that you have as well when you use the visualizations and the meditation and the imagination eventually.
Yeah, and fun. Hopefully it's fun and you can play and feel like this is weird and cool. So that's
like creating your own movie, yeah? Like watching your movie that you are the director of it.
Exactly.
I love it. Dianne, it's so wonderful talking to you, but we're arriving at the end of the call. Sure. I'm not going to let you go before you share with us what's the hidden gem from the place you are from that you want to share with us today.
I live in Long Island, New York, and so we're about halfway out on Long Island from Manhattan to Montauk. And I have a beach less than 1 mile from my house called Cedar Beach. And it is absolutely a hidden gem. It's got a marina on one side and swimming area on the other side. And it's like lately people are finding it and we're not happy, those of us who live around here. But it's this perfect little beach with a beautiful little stand to get your ice pops and the marina, and there's fishing down at the end and beautiful sunsets that show up every single day. And it's our hidden gem. And I grew up here, came back here after many, many, many years. And so to appreciate this, you know, I grew up here remembering the smell of the asphalt when they would retar the parking lot for this beach every single summer and sinking into that wet, hot asphalt every year and going out into the beach and staying in the water until we were purple. So it's a beautiful place.
Thank you, Dianne, for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, local wisdom is priceless, so we take note of it.
It is.
So just before we finish, if somebody wants to contact you, you explained where to get the book, but if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do so?
Sure. The best way to reach me is probably at my website, which is earthandsoulpublishing.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dianne, for being here today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Sonia, for having me. It's been so fun. Thank you. I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah,
Bye.
and everybody tuning in, happy and safe travels. Bye, Dianne.
Thank you so
See you
much.
next week.
Bye.
Bye.